Welcome to another 2016 episode of Lachie's Weekly Footy Roundup. This time it's round 14. We'll be taking a look at the results of round 13, the ladder after round 13, and we predict round 14. Let's just get 2016 ladder. Round 13. Friday night. Well, this week on Friday Night Footy, it was a bit of a better game. North Melbourne and Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium, at Etihad Stadium. It's better than that last week performance that Essendon put up against Hawthorn. Although the Roos only lost that game by just 9 points. They were leading at one. They nearly won that match. Look at the players. The player stats. Jordan Lewis had a great game for the Hawks with 31 disposals, 11 clearances and a goal. Trent Gibbon had a pretty starting to come in his own at North Melbourne, 24 disposals, 7 tackles and a behind. Now we look at the multiple goal kickers. 5 goals from James Sicily. He's looking like the forward of the future. And plus, well, Ruffett set to be coming back next year. Well, maybe there's no need for Lachlan Brown at Hawthorn for season 2017. Lindsay Thomas is kick free, same with Drew Petrie. And Mason Wood with 2 goals. And we now look at the next game. Brisbane and West Coast at the Gabba. Oh my days. Another game, another Brisbane loss. Oh, they need to properly rebuild. Dane Zorko had a great game, 31 disposals, 8 tackles and a point. Pierce Hanley played pretty good himself, 36 and 2 goals for the Lions. I think they impressed in a losing side. However, Stefan Martin with 51 headouts in the loss. West Coast best on the ground was Elliot Yeo with 21 disposals, 11 tackles and a goal. Speaking of goals, let's look at the multiple goal kickers. Josh Kennedy kicked 5 for the Eagles. Another great game for him. Josh Walker with 4 goals for the Lions. He's starting to prove his worth up forward at Brisbane. Buck LaCroix with 4 goals. Jack Darling also with 4 goals. Josh Shackey and Pierce Hanley with 2 each. And Jamie Cripps kicked 2. Now, I think we're still waiting for... I think Lions fans are still waiting for the... And their first game, Eric Hipwood's also kicked a goal. He might be defeated. He could eventually overtake Shackey. Fremantle versus Port Adelaide at Subiaco Oval. Well, Port Adelaide did not do like what Adelaide did the previous week. They lost in Perth against the Dockers. Michael Barlow with 43 disposals, 8 tackles, 9 clearances and 2 goals. He's playing like 2010, Michael Barlow. Lachie Neal with 38 disposals and a point. Daniel Pearce with 25 disposals, 6 tackles and a point against his old side. Matthew Pavlich, 15 disposals, 7 marks, 5 tackles, 4 goals. Port's best was Brad Ebert with 28 disposals and 7 tackles and a goal. The other multiple goal kickers, Chad Wingard kicked 3 for the Power, Justin Westhoff with 2, and Jarman Empty with 2. I think that's about it to report for the game. Western Bulldogs versus Geelong at Etihad Stadium. Oh, Bulldogs fans should be wearing blinkers in this one. How did they lose by nearly 10 goals? Just embarrassing. 1 goal heading at half time. Oh my days, they were down. They were pretty much done. They were pretty much done for. The only dog that impressed me this game was Jack McRae with 31 disposals, 7 tackles and a point. However, Matt Suckling with 26 disposals, 9 marks and a goal. He's probably thinking to himself he should have never left Hawthorn. Paddy Dangerfield once again with a ball on a string at Geelong, 37 disposals, 7 tackles, 8 clearances, 2 goals. He's looking like a Brownlow favourite at this stage. Multiple goal kickers. Daniel Menzel with 4. Tom Hawkins with 4. 2 goals to Selwood, to Josh Selwood, and Stephen Motlock. Not one Bulldog was a multiple goal kicker that game. Be more Bulldog, they're more playing like be less Bulldog. Sydney versus Melbourne at the SCG. Melbourne just 4 goals for whole match. Luke Parker had a great game himself, 23 disposals, 17 tackles, 7 clearances, and didn't make an impact on the scoring sheet. Max God, however, 14 disposals and 58 hitouts. He won that ruck battle against Sinclair and Nankervis. Dean Towers had a great game for the Swans, 27 disposals and 2 goals. Anyways, let's look at the multiple goal kickers. Buddy Franklin with 4, Dean Towers with 2, and Ben McGlynn with 2. While there's only one Melbourne player who was a multiple goal kicker, Christian Petrarca. Be unsure if Melbourne are going to make the finals at this rate. Essendon and GWS at Etihad Stadium. The Bombers have put in a bit of a better performance. They only lost by 27 points. Even though they led for half a game. And then the Giants ran away with it in the last quarter. Look at the player stats for this one. Well, what a game from Adam Cooney. 25 disposals, 12 marks, 5 tackles, 4 clearances, 2 points. GWS's best was Stephen Canelio with 29 disposals, 8 clearances and a goal. Now for the multiple goal kickers. Toby Green with 4 for the Giants. Matthew Kennedy with 3 goals. Zach Williams with 2. Jeremy Cameron with 2. I think that was the debut for Matt Kennedy. That's for Essendon. Horacio Fantasia with 4 goals. Matthew Lewenberger with 2. Mark Jamar with 2. And Joe Danaher with 2. And so did Mitch Brown. And now we look at the ladder after round 13. Well, Geelong have moved up the top of the ladder. Second is the Swans. North Melbourne have gone down to 3rd. Hawthorn are now in 4th. Following that great run they've been having, GWS are in 5th. The Western Bulldogs have slipped down to 6th after that loss to Geelong. West Coast Eagles have gone up to 7th after that went over Brisbane. While for the Crows, they slipped down to 8th after losing to the bye. Port Adelaide are sitting in 9th. But hang on a minute, I reckon the Crows got the job done over the bye. There's no change between 9th and 14th. Still the same teams from last week. Port Adelaide, Melbourne, Carlton, St Kilda, Richmond and Collingwood. Fremantle will move up to 15th, while Gold Coast moved down to 16th after losing to the bye. Brisbane is 17th, while the Bombers sit in last spot. Richmond, Collingwood, St Kilda and Carlton all had wins over the bye. But hang on a minute. We just got some confirmation. Carlton have lost to the bye. Well, that's Carlton out of the Lachlan Brow race as well. It's narrowed down to 7 clubs. Anyways, now we move on to round 14. Adelaide versus North Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. Now, still 8 clubs as depending on Hawthorn. Crows versus... Anyways, back to the game. Adelaide, North Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. I reckon the Crows will likely get the victory because it's at home. I'm going with the Crows by 32 points. Collingwood and Fremantle at the SCG on Friday night. It would have been a great game if Fremantle was still a really good side. I reckon the Dockers back on the momentum. I reckon they'll get the job done by 2 points. Richmond and Brisbane at the SCG. I'm going the Tigers by 10 goals. GWS versus the Blue Baggers at Spotless Stadium. I reckon the Giants will get it done by 80 points. As Carlton, fresh off of their loss to the bye, St Kilda versus Geelong at Etihad Stadium. My pick for this game, I'm going with an upset. I'm going to Kilda by a point. That's a bit of a controversial call. Anyways, the last game of the round, we've got Hawthorn and Gold Coast at Aurora Stadium in Launceston. My pick for this game, I'm going with the Hawks by 27 points. And that's it for round 14, and we'll see you next episode for round 15.